Hi guys, Sidewinder here. I was thinking for a while that maybe I should start doing a mini arm wrestling series just to give shape to what my philosophy in the sport is. I will try to touch on as many topics as possible, from general strength training to ranges of motion and weight classes you should compete in. Uh, I have some notes prepared for this series, so bear with me if I change my gaze occasionally, just to make sure that I am on the right track. So let's start with the first episode, which is general strength training. So, in my opinion, I think that too many people are focused on powerlifting or bodybuilding movements, no matter the sport, generally speaking, in strength sports. And I think this is kind of detrimental because people are really focused on the muscles themselves instead of the movements that pertain to that certain sport, disregarding completely how muscles move or operate within a given sport. So let's just address the big elephant in the room directly. How big lifts such as the bench press, the squat, the deadlift affect arm wrestling? Well, first of all, the most important thing is that you are going to add quite some degree of muscle mass on your frame, and nobody wants that as long as you're trying to compete in a certain weight class. You're trying to be as strong as possible while being as lean as possible, so maximizing your relative strength. That would be the term. It's quite funny enough that the people that should actually be training for powerlifting are perhaps the ones that avoid entirely training for powerlifting, and that is powerlifters. What do I mean by that? Well, in powerlifting, you will see a lot of deviation from the norm by applying a lot of accessory lifts, which may serve as enhancers or maybe days of recovery. Some powerlifters avoid deadlifting altogether. They just do the squats and they do some accessory movements so they can boost their deadlift, and then they just deadlift before competition or maybe only during competition. So, about hypertrophy. Let's take the example of the triceps muscle. You're doing the bench press, your triceps is growing, but your triceps is acting concentrically during the bench press. But during arm wrestling, what do you notice that happens with your triceps? It's being locked in. And of course, you may feel some pain when you're trying to press or to flop wrist, but is that actually a function of the triceps muscle itself? I would beg to differ and say that it's actually a result of lack of conditioning of the tendons in your elbow. Another good example would be that during a bench press, you're training your pushing muscles, your anterior deltoid, your pecs. But to be fair, when you're actually trying to pull your opponent towards the pin pad, it's actually the subscapularis muscle that is performing much of the internal rotation. So you are trading resources and recovery time to train muscles that are not as actively engaged as another muscle in your body. Of course, bench press does indirectly train the subscapularis muscle. But when you actually want to grow stronger in a certain movement, you want to target that peculiar muscle that is responsible of most of the weight movement. Um, I'm sure you have seen Devon's recent video with Magnus Midbo, where Devon seems to be performing horribly on some general strength movements. And I'm not trying to be a Devon fan here, but I have to give it to him that he's one of the best in the world, if not actually number two behind Levan. And yet he can get by just having a 106 kilogram bench press, which is far beneath his weight class. Uh, Myself, I can say that if I try to bench press right now, it's going to be a 75 to 80 kilogram one rep max. Artur Makarov is also a good example of this. I think he bench pressed 85 max. Um, you will notice that general strength movements that have a tangent with arm wrestling will be stronger. So, for example, I can climb a rope with 10 to 15 kilograms extra weight without training for that. Uh, I can deadlift a good amount of weight without ever training it, like 140 kg. And touching on this topic, I also want to mention that you'll see a lot of arm wrestlers on the internet who are boasting about their numbers going up on the squat, on the deadlift, on the yada yada yada. And it's always something like I think I saw Vitaly Laletin doing squats with 120 kg. Todzilla talking about deadlifting 140 kg for the first time. Of course, that was years ago, but still, we are talking about accomplished arm wrestlers here. And these are numbers that I managed to lift way before I even started arm wrestling. And you know what happened during my first tournament? I got flash pinned horribly. Yes, of course, I had a big back. I was hypertrophied out of my mind. I also had big legs, so caution with that. But I was not developed in the areas that arm wrestling requires. Keep in mind that I think we have touched this in a previous video. The chain of strength in arm wrestling starts from the hand and goes through the elbow and then up to the shoulder. So then you don't really need all that mass in your upper body, let alone speak of lower body, to actually move the weight that you need to move in arm wrestling in order to be competitive. Um, so think about it this way. If you can cup 50 kilos and then you can pull 50 kilos towards you and then you can drag 50 kilos towards you and then you can move to the side with 50 kilos. Sorry, I mean 50. Then it's pretty much all you'll ever need. And we are talking about isometric movements here. So the whole thing about general strength training, which brings in hypertrophy, resource consumption, and general use of your time, does not make sense for arm wrestling, in my opinion. You are free to do what you feel is best for you, but I hope this mini series will inspire some of you to follow a different path and maybe help you find or regain joy in the sport of arm wrestling. So, to summarize and reach a conclusion, general strength training in arm wrestling is not all that it's hyped to be. You are much better off focusing on the specific movements. It will help with the time you spend in the gym, with your gains, uh, with your weight class, keeping it at the level that you want to without worrying about extra muscle mass. And I'll see you in the next installment of our mini series. Goodbye.